Imagine a world where everybody is connected. Imagine a world where somebody in Japan can do a transaction with somebody in the United States without high banking fees. Imagine a world no longer ruled by greedy corporate banks. There's going to come a time when we think of central banks in the same way we think about calling an operator to talk to a friend on the phone. This weird, annoying entity that came between us and the things we actually wanted. You aren't going to drown in fees anymore. You aren't going to borrow money from a bank. You aren't going to fight a half a dozen middlemen. It'll just be you and your money anywhere on earth. And once this happens, cryptocurrency could very well make the US dollar obsolete. Once people understand how easy this is and get used to it, the demand for legacy money controlled by a government and bank is going to plummet like a rock. Welcome to the world of cryptocurrency. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to what normally is early morning crypto talk. My name is Brandon Ivey from Los Angeles, California. I'm the CEO and founder of Ivy League Crypto Academy. Go ahead and type your name in the chat box and where you're listening in from. As a disclaimer, I am not a licensed financial advisor to be giving financial advice. I read the news, give my opinion, share suggestion for entertainment and educational purposes only. and it is up to you to make your own informed, intelligent decision on which direction you want to move into. Now, normally on a Saturday morning, we would do a public crypto talk with my ILCA community that I opened up for the world. We're streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and we only do this once a week. But today we're doing something special. You guys have seen that randomly I do interviews with different leaders and CEOs and businessmen in their respective industries and careers and bringing something to value. Last year, I interviewed my mother. You guys remember that one? It's still one of the most famous videos and interviews that we've done so far. You guys love to hear from my mom. And today, this is a long time in the making, something that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and that is introduce you guys from my point of view, a man that has, I can go on and on for days, his accolades, my own father. But before I bring him up, I want to introduce you in two ways. First, I want to let you know who he is from the public, but let's recognize you guys are coming on. So go ahead and type your name in the chat box. I see we've got Miss Marnita Costa from Colorado, Demetrius Turner, Warren Aaron Hemphill. Good morning. Jerome James, Jackie Brown Frick, Gina Muhammad from Philly. I know you can't wait to see the Eagles win, right? Dan Hairston from New Jersey, Kevin Strouser from Georgia, Janelle Appling from Colorado, Elijah Morgan, Stan Thompson from North Carolina, Neil Brooks, Richmond, Virginia, Steve Randall from Memphis, Tennessee, Mike Nowalski from Jersey. Hope you're feeling better, Mike. I don't know if you're still down in the hospital. They released you yet. Let's see, who else do we have? Well, go ahead, type in where you guys are listening in from. So I want to share with you guys first who Mr. Ivey is in the public. I see you, Linda Wright from Virginia, Liz Mullen from Wisconsin. So I'm going to let you guys know who Mr. Ivey is from the public's point of view. You hear me talk about him all the time. So from his public accolades, Gilbert F. Ivey has more than 45 years of comprehensive water utility experience with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. We call it MWD. That is the largest wholesale water agency in the nation. He rose through the ranks of MWD beginning as a summer intern and becoming the interim chief executive officer, in other words, a CEO. He has experience in all aspects of water utilities, including water quality, supply, and water resource management. He refined his political acumen through his 8-year term as a chairman for Access DC, which connects the Southern California business community with federal lawmakers in Washington, D.C. and the White House. He is currently the president and CEO of Gilbert F. Ivey and Associates, LLC, which provides executive coaching, business development, public policy, and strategic planning services. He served as the 2016 chairman of the Los Angeles County Business Federation, otherwise known as BizFed, which is a diverse grassroots alliance of more than 155 business organizations that represent over 300,000 businesses with 3 million employees. Mr. Ivey served as the 2017 chair of the BizFed Institute, served 2 terms as the chairman of the Laverne Planning Commission, recently recognizing for the Old Town Laverne Strategic Plan. He is a highly sought-after motivational speaker as he rose from the streets of Compton, California, becoming the highest-ranking African-American in the nation's water industry. Mr. Ivey worked collaboratively to build historic statewide business coalitions for the purpose of addressing the current water supply crisis, bringing together business leaders throughout the state. He also served as the steering committee chairman for the LA County Chamber of Commerce, Access Washington, D.C., a coalition comprised of Southern California mayors and significant business leaders advocating for federal funds and legislation to support economic growth for Southern California. He's got a bachelor's degree of science at business administration from California State University, Dominguez Hills, professional designations and certifications in management, Pepperdine University, and the University of Southern California, water and wastewater leadership center certificate, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. His professional organizations include LA County Fairplex board member, Hillcrest Development Advisory Committee, City of Laverne Committee on Cultural Awareness and Social Inclusion, Cal State University Dominguez Hills Foundation Executive Board Member, Cooperative Economic Empowerment Movement Board Member and Vice Chair, Public Finance Authority, Laverne, LA County, American Waterworks Association, American Association of Blacks in Energy, Association of California Water Agencies, Association of California Water Agencies Hands Across the Border Committee, LA Area Chamber of Commerce, San Diego Area Chamber of Commerce, LA Central City Association Executive Board, Community Financial, Awards, Public Sector Visionary of the Year awarded by the Southern California Leadership Network, twice voted Board Member of the Year by the LA Chamber of Commerce, Department of Defense Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. I can keep going on and on and on. There's a reason why I wanted to take time to share that, because this is not just an interview for you guys. This is also an interview for the future. I am very, very big on legacy. Both my sons are listening right now as well. And I want my descendants to know who my father was. Now, this is who he is to the public, but let me tell you who he is to me. He's the first man I've ever known. He brought me into this world. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to catch a baseball, how to swim. Oh, wait a second. No, I taught him how to swim, sort of. We're still working on that. He taught me how to be a man. He was my first coach, my first mentor. He was there to go to my basketball games and football games and discipline me when I needed it, and had countless sleepless nights because of me, and probably still does. He is a loving husband and father, a man of God, a pillar of our community. Outside of God, there is no other man I can put higher on a pedestal than my own father. So I want to introduce you guys to Mr. Gilbert F. Ivey. Dad, are you there?
I'm here, my son. How are you?
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling fantastic.
Great, great. You look good. You sound good. As I always make fun of you, I say you're of sound mind and body. You're ready to go. Now, you retired years ago, but you are still active out there today. And you stay busy. You stay active. So I just wanted to introduce everybody to you. And I want to get to the beginning. Let's go back from a personal perspective. Who was your mentors when you first came about? Who mentored you to where you wanted to be and set your goals?
Well, actually, your grandfather, my father, was the first man that got me on my track, and he was not fooling around ever. He was in the military. He was in the Air Force, and I was born in Oceanside, California, on the Camp Pendleton base, and he was a strict disciplinarian. We lived in a housing project in San Pedro, and he was always diligent about taking care of his family. And my two sisters, your aunt, were also born there in the Los Angeles area. And we had a great time with him. He led us around, made sure we were taken care of, and he made sure that his wife, my mom, your grandma, were well taken care of in the face of much adversity that he faced. And when he started out in his career, he worked in the aerospace industry. And when he would go to work, some of his workers would not speak to him or even eat lunch with him. He often ate alone, and was kind of an angry man. He was full of rage, but quiet rage. He never really showed it, but you could feel it. And he decided that no matter what came against him, that he was going to succeed. He was going to make sure that his children succeeded, and he did. And so he's a great mentor. He told me if all I ever wanted to be was a street sweeper, then to be the number one street sweeper. Always be the best, be 10 times better than anybody else, especially those who were against us. And he was referring mostly at that time to white males. He was very specific. And he said that you're going to find that they're going to be against you, but you just keep pushing forward and you will prevail.
Wow, wow. And that's the same thing. I mean, that's what he taught you. That's all I know because that's what I was taught from you and from him. I remember Grandpa was very, very quiet, loved his family, always had a camera, was always recording and taking pictures and recording the family. Could you tell me some of what were some of his hobbies? What did he love to do?
Oh, his favorite hobby was camping and fishing, and we were able to scrape together money. And he bought a little used boat, and we go out. And the only problem with that is my mom was deathly afraid. Your grandma was deathly afraid of the water, and she had to back the boat down the ramp at Lake Isabella, and she got scared because the water was getting close to the car, and then she started panicking, and she kind of jumped out the car as the car continued to roll down into the water with the boat. And my dad had to jump in the car and put on the brakes and pull the boat in the car back out of the water, and that was quite an event. And we continued to camp, but it was tension in that campground. Let me tell you, it wasn't a happy time, but we succeeded. He also loved being a ham operator, and that was a big thing. It's still good today, where people across the nation, um, communications enthusiasts using old school communications, would get on the ham radio and talk around the world to one another. And he successfully uh, helped the United States government when there was a gigantic Alaskan earthquake. Many people died in that earthquake, and he was able to tie together with other ham operators and broadcast messages to Alaska and from Alaska on behalf of the citizens and the officials. And he received a major award from the US government for helping take care of the people in need in Alaska during that earthquake. Very proud.
Wow. Wow. I remember he had a back room full of electronic equipment and he was always good at building things, building video games. He built you a race car set.
Yeah.
You're only in the neighborhood that had that.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, all the young men in the neighborhood would come over to my house because I'm the only one that had a racing kit. And he also built a computer. One like the first computer, he just got a kit together and built a computer and was able to pull up grandma's recipes on there. And he also built televisions. And he worked on televisions. He taught me all about tubes and electronics, and it was quite a deal for him. Quite a deal.
Now tell me about you guys first when you moved down to Compton, California, and you grew up in Compton, California. And what was your experience like that in going through school and high school and then to college?
Well, when we came from Hawthorne, which is where we originally lived after a while, it was primarily Compton was primarily a white city, all white, and my dad tried to move us in there to get a better life for us. And we moved in. The neighborhood was primarily white, and things were really going well. Then it seemed like overnight the neighborhood started turning to people of color rapidly, and my dad used to always complain that people were moving behind the orange curtain. And I didn't ever know what that meant, the orange curtain. And when I got older, I realized what he was referring to was Orange County. And people were fleeing the southern part of LA County and going to Orange County. And he said, that's a place that they don't want us to be. And I had to ask him, I said, who doesn't want us to be? And he says, let's just say the finances followed the people to Orange County and left Compton desolate. And Compton rapidly declined. Although the population increased, the resources fled to Orange County and out to the San Fernando Valley. And he was quite angry because after they left, the majority left, they then complained what a terrible place Compton was. And he says, well, it's a terrible place because you took all the resources with you. So
Mhm.
he just was really hardcore against the folks that were running away from young, black, energetic, faithful, patriotic Americans like himself, from trying to get a better life for himself. So Compton was quite exciting. It was in its change. It was big Motown time. Motown music was heavy. I mean, it's the soundtrack of Young American was the soundtrack of Compton. And as you know, we loved the Temptations and the Supremes and everybody, and that was the soundtrack of our lives. And through it all, we endured the death of John F. Kennedy. That
Mm.
happened in 62 and or six, yeah, I think 62 November. And we endured the death of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, and strife after strife occurred. The Watts riots then happened here in LA. It was huge. It impacted him greatly and our family because we had National Guard and people with guns stationed on the corners and running up and down the street in jeeps. And this was just, and this is our home, but it was militarized and scary, and you could hear shooting, and it was just a very scary time. And my dad made sure that we were safe and that we survived, and we kept our head held high, and we continued to endure. My dad's big thing was don't move, improve. That was a big thing in Compton. Don't run, stay there, try to make the city better. And through life there, we did well. Attended Centennial High School and the Big Ten, Apaches at that time is what it was called, and had a great time there. And then my mom, your grandma, got into a discussion with my geometry teacher because my geometry teacher, who was a young white lady at the time, said that I wasn't going to ever amount to anything and that she didn't know why I was even in her class. So I came and told my mom that, and next thing I know, my mom was at the school, and to say the rest is history, that teacher was gone. So my mom wasn't afraid. She was very quiet and very humble. But when it came to her kids, you better believe she stuck up and did her thing for us. So it was quite exciting. I enjoyed Compton a lot, and it's the basis of my childhood.
Now, after that, you plan to choose your career, going to school or even going to the military. So tell us about that transition.
Well, the Vietnam War was still going on hard and heavy. And at that time, we were all subject, young men were subject to the draft across the country. And it was time for my numbers to come up. And so what my dad did is, well, let's go over and see if we can get you into some kind of officer position because my grades were so high at the time. And so we went and investigated the Navy being an airplane pilot because I always wanted to be a handsome jet pilot. My
Wait,
mom,
wait, say that again. A handsome jet pilot.
a handsome jet pilot is what I always wanted to be. And so I went and took the test for the Navy pilot, and I passed it, and everything was great until they did the eye exam. And because I didn't have 20/20 uncorrected vision, I could not be the pilot. I could only be the co-pilot or the bombardier. And I didn't want to be co-pilot bombardier. I want to be a handsome jet pilot. And so I didn't want to join the Navy then. And so they were after me for a while. They would, send things to my mom and dad and try to get them to convince me to join. And luckily, my draft number didn't come up. I was out. I was two numbers away from being drafted, and so I didn't have to do the military at all. Now, my dad wanted me to do military because he's a military guy,
Mhm.
but because that happened, we just missed the Vietnam War. A lot of my friends died in the Vietnam War, and it was kind of just a sad time. But we just pushed forward and did our thing. So we decided to concentrate on college, and at that time, a lot of schools were after me because my SAT was so high and my grades were
You
high.
almost had a perfect SAT, right? You and your sisters.
Yeah, we did pretty good in SAT, and and it was so interesting because at the time, in school you got bullies and you got those who don't want to do school, and so the higher my grades got, the more I had to deal with people who didn't want me to have good grades. So that was exciting. I always like fight my way home and fight my way back, and there's just always something going on. And so that kind of also helped mold my need to be successful and to survive. And we decided to a friend of mine and I decided to go back to school in Chicago, Lake Forest College in Chicago, where the school was in the need of admitting more blacks. It was a private Ivy League kind of school back there, and they needed to have an infusion of blacks into the
Mm.
school, following the riots and everything. And so we went back there, and I found that even in that class, it was a philosophy class, that all the other kids, the individual white kids, were asked how they individually felt about any given subject. But when the professor got to asking me a question, he would ask me, "Well, how do the blacks feel?" It wasn't,
Mhm.
"Oh, how do you feel?" It's like I had to always be the spokesperson for the blacks, and I had to straighten them out and say, "I can only speak for myself, and I'm not speaking for all of blacks." And so there, it was contention there. They weren't used to blacks, so I wasn't used to them, and it was quite a challenge. And eventually, I came back home and finished up school at night at Cal State Dominguez. So it was quite a change.
Now that experience led you into your first career, your first job. So talk about how did you enter with MWD?
Well, my first job actually was with Sears. I worked in the men's department, and I had no money. You know, my family was not rich. Let me tell you, we was paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes electricity was on, sometimes it wasn't. It was just that's just the upgrade, and that was normal in my neighborhood. We all lived about the same, so we
Mm.
all shared the same experience. But when I left Sears, I needed more income to just even support myself and help with my family. So one day, a young man from Metropolitan Water District came to Centennial High School, and he was looking for people or students involved with math who had a math background. And so I, along with a friend of mine, and a couple of guys from Compton High School and one guy from Hispanic guy from Dominguez High School in Compton. We were picked up and driven to this place called the Metropolitan Water District in downtown Los Angeles, and that was in 1969, 1970ish. And boy, we thought we were at Disneyland. The building was beautiful, it had water fountains, and it was like an area that we had just never even envisioned before. It was just beautiful. And they told us that they wanted to bring us in as interns, as summer interns, give us a chance to work there because they want to start focusing more on helping people of color. Because at that time they called us Negroes and blacks, but they want to help people of color get ahead, which was a good thing for Metropolitan. And that came from the fact that um, it was time for change. It was following the riots and it was just time for change in the industry. And once we got there at Metropolitan, we hit a wall of difference that we've never seen before. and
Yeah.
and there were people who didn't want to be near us and didn't want to necessarily talk to us. But then there were also those who embraced us and loved us. It was quite a contradiction of reaction to our young selves being there, coming from an area that they didn't want to be in, but were wide open to trying. And I always salute Metropolitan for making that major step in the water industry, for reaching out. And from there, the rest is history.
Well, now let's talk about because I'm going to get back to MWD in a moment, but at the same time period, you also got to meet the love of your life, my mother. Let's talk about you meeting my mom and getting married and starting a family.
Well, let me tell you, the love of my life, my queen, is your mom. And let me tell you, um, I met her through a friend of mine, and she was dating the football quarterback. And so I said, okay, what are we going to do? And um, met her once, and really liked what I saw. She's beautiful. She has a big afro. I thought she was Angela Davis, this big afro. And she was really fine, still is. And decided to, pursue a little bit. And we got into a fight. And then she didn't want to talk to me anymore. So that kind of ended. Then a year later, saw her again and decided that, I really am interested. But she didn't want to talk to me because she found out that I didn't go to church. I had no church home. And that if I wanted to date her or go out, I'd have to come to her choir rehearsal at Double Rock Baptist Church and pick her up from there on Friday night. And I remember going, I'm not going, no. But then I kept looking at it and said, well, maybe it's worth it. Okay, I'll try this. And so I went up to the choir rehearsal and listened to the choir. And then choir director Alexander Hamilton asked me to come and sit up in the choir stand. I said, "Oh, I can't sing," and uh, and so he had me go up there anyway. And after a couple of times, he had me singing something. I didn't quite know what I was doing, but I knew I was near your mom. And that's all I cared. And then the rest was history. I ended up joining the church and being born again and getting baptized and being part of the choir. And your mom and I got married there at the church, and the rest is history. It's just I just love her so much. I loved her then. I love her more now. And because of that, you were born, and your brother was born, and we were just being fruitful and multiplying, and we just had a good time. So yeah, 47 years in February. It will be our anniversary. So we've been together for for the good. We'll be together forever the next 100 years. Absolutely.
February 28th, 47th wedding anniversary is coming up. Got to do something special for you guys. Also, we have, speaking of the choir, Stella Battle's on right now. She just said hello to you, Dad.
Hey,
She was part of this. So I'm going to talk about that singing part. You became a member of the Voices of Inspiration, a small choir at Double Rock Baptist Church, Compton, California. But it didn't stay just this small choir. You guys actually made some noise, some albums, TV shows, Soul Train Awards. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, I was still on the line. Stella and I actually did a duet one time at a wedding. It was pretty cool too, but it was great. We started. Alexander Hamilton is just a terrific, or was a terrific choir director and maestro. If you look at the Aretha Franklin Amazing Grace album, you'll find Alexander Hamilton was a major part of that. And also, they did documentary on Aretha, if you remember, just a year ago, where you'll see Alexander in action directing the choir there. Alexander has a great portfolio of movie stars and professional gigs that he was doing. Lou Rawls and a couple other people, as well as just his own work. And he was tremendous. And in fact, if you go to thegospelinstitute.com, you get a whole history on Alexander Hamilton and the choir, the Voices of Inspirations, and all the things that we've done. We did great things. We went from just singing in churches to, again, as you mentioned, we've done television, on and off camera singing on television, done movies, have done radio broadcasts, concerts, and I believe it's 3 albums we got together. And it's just great. You got to check it out. We won a couple of awards. We did the McDonald's Gospel Fest and won the great award, won a bunch of money and instruments and stuff. And so I want you to know that with Stella on here, Stella's a fantastic singer. And I learned a lot from her and also all the choir members. So Sherrill, your mom, is a great singer. She is a first soprano. And whenever you hear in the album, whoever has the highest voice and the sweetest voice, that's your mama singing. And so I think she's just fantastic. She could sing to me forever. And so things are good. We traveled around with us. You and your brother went with us many times to some of these events. And one of the most famous ones I did personally was I was a voice of a bullfrog on CBS television, cartoons on Saturday mornings. And I also worked with Liza Minnelli and Mary J. Blige and all kinds of Etta James, you name it. So we did it. That's a big part of my life. And I want you to know, whenever we did the studio, they would call me Mr. Ivey. Mr. Ivey, can we get you something? Voices, can we get you something? And then when I go to work the next morning, hey, you. So it's like being treated like a star in one place and being treated like a little runt in another place. So it was quite interesting, quite fun.
Well, speaking on that, let's go back to MWD. Let everyone know how a poor kid from Compton, California, that had an internship as the industry was attempting to desegregate and cross that color barrier, and you being one of the first. I know we hear all the time about and what happened in the South with the desegregation of schools and what the little girls had to go through just going to school, but there's many stories that go unheard of pioneers who had to blaze the trail and break some form of a barrier. And you are a major trailblazer in the state of California that really hasn't gone heard. But how did you go from that to end up becoming the interim CEO of that same organization? What obstacles did you have to really hit through? What comes to your mind?
I think the biggest obstacle was just having relevancy and having people understand that I was serious about having a career at Metropolitan Water. A lot of people just thought we were there for part-time work and not being serious, and that we would move on to other endeavors and move out of the way so they could move on with their work. But it took me a while, quite frankly, to even have a warm feeling about Metropolitan, only because it just wasn't the ideal place to work at that time, coming out
Mm.
of the civil rights movements and stuff. I mean, people had opinions, and they let that opinion be known to me and a few others of us that were coming in. They had a spattering of people of color throughout the workplace, out to the desk and up and down the line, but not a lot. And a couple of times I want to trying to be a water operator, which is somebody who actually operated the system. And I was told that no, you don't want to do that. You're not made for that. So I was told that a couple of I wasn't made for that. I didn't know what that meant. I wasn't made for that. So I continued to focus and concentrate and just do the best I can. I told my dad, your grandfather, that I was ready to move on. It just wasn't working for me. I want to try something new. And he kind of told me that you need to stay there. You need to do it, not just for you, but for those who may come behind you. Somebody's got to open the doors. Somebody has to break through the glass ceiling. And why not be you? You're already there. They've, many of them have already accepted you. Don't go with the negative ones. You stay hooked to the ones who want to help you. So I did. And I come to find that my success wasn't based on me alone. And of course, my success is also based in God's promises to me to take care of me. And so with that, I continue to find that there were people in the majority who really wanted me to succeed. I didn't recognize it at first, but I soon found that some of the people, especially in leadership at Metropolitan, really wanted me to succeed. And I learned how to accept their help. I learned how to be strong. I learned how to, when people said no, that as far as I'm concerned, that's a yes. All no's were yeses. When they said I couldn't do it, I said, well, why not? And I continued to push and push and push. Some people thought I was arrogant, and some people thought I was egotistical. And you know what? That's true. I was arrogant and I was egotistical because my daddy told me to be the best. And so that's what I did. And I continued to push. And then all of a sudden I got recognized for my ability to communicate and my ability to transcend issues, not be negative, not be scary, not and not be threatening. Because that
Not
was
the angry black man, huh?
yeah, yeah. You always have to be careful. That I was always admirable of Obama trying so hard not to come across as an angry black man because I felt his rage every now and then. I knew he wanted to say something. I knew it, but I knew he knew how to get around it and communicate. And I learned from that too, even though I was older than him. But I learned from that, and things are great. But let me tell you, Metropolitan did well. I reached up into the organization, up to the leadership because I could tell that trying to deal with the people at my level wasn't working. So I
Mm.
learned to survive, learned to ask people to be my mentor. And you would find that a lot of the people who you felt were against you weren't against you at all. They just
Mm.
wanted to see progress. They wanted to see people who were willing to step forth and go forth and do the best they could. And they recognized that in me, and I continued to push. And so all of a sudden, I got recognized by the front office, and the rest is history. And they continued to give me more and more assignments, more responsibility, and I continued to perform because it's not enough to get it and then kick back. You have to perform. You have to prove all the time that you're as good, if not better, than the rest of them just to get on the front page. And that's what I did. And it was a shock to me when I was made the first black supervisor. I was in my little unit. I mean, that had never heard. People were looking like, well, how'd that happen? And some of the folks were mad. They didn't want to work for me. I had a lot of times where people didn't want to take my supervision or my direction, but that's okay. I was a boss. They didn't have to. They had to do what was necessary for them to get the job done. But with that, I made many, many, many friends. And so the bottom line is the white people who were there, who were against some of us, um, are now gone. And the others who were there to help us are successful in moving forward, and we embrace one another. And I'm just blessed to continue to have so many friends in the community who have reached out and helped me succeed to the top.
I got to say this. You guys heard him talk about performance, and I always talk about philosophy of performance. That is our goal. As a child, I remember um, the late nights, the look on my father's face when he'd come home after rush hour traffic, getting up early to be there, and the things he had to go through that I didn't fully understand then, but as an adult now, looking back on it, I fully understand. So I have nothing but appreciation for you persevering. I think is maybe one of the right words, and keep moving forward, because not only did you impact just your life and your family, but as grandpa said, you opened the doors for many others that came behind you, including your best friend that we just lost recently. Talk about some of those individuals that you were able to open that door for, and they were able to come in and also have success, and that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for you be able to be there and lead the way.
Oh, it was a great time. I had many friends that were absolutely successful after I was able to help them get through the door. And you mentioned my very good friend Ronald Wheeler, who just passed. Man, what a tremendous success story that was too. And he was from Compton High, and he had issues in the very beginning, but I continued to motivate him and push him forward, along with Sylvia Ballin over at the Metropolitan Water District, who suddenly became a director and now had just finished her term as the mayor of San Fernando. As a matter of fact, she was a great help to Ronald. But we formed, back in the day, we formed the Black Employees Association, because it was a time where things were really getting a little bit tough at Metropolitan Water as far as advancement and promotion and hiring. And so, with the Black Employees Association, we were able to open doors because we were able to get into communication and dialogue and let the bosses know that, this is serious. We need to make a change around here and make sure that people have opportunities where the doors were closed. We wanted them open. At least give us a chance to walk through the door. And through that, was able to also help form the Hispanic Association, the Asian Association, the Women's Association. And it's a great, great group of people who got together and said, we need to push forward and make some change in not just the metropolitan, but in the water industry as a whole. So some of the people that were really, really there today, such as the first Black chairman of the board, um, Gloria Gray, who quite frankly got there as a result of our efforts inside Metropolitan and in the industry itself. She was a tremendous, tremendous person, a good friend of mine who made it to the top. I'm very proud of whatever effort and whatever contribution I made for her to get to that position. And also we had some Black attorneys that got in there. Harley Searcy, who has now passed on, did well getting into the organization. Um, Many, many people. One person that really helped a lot as a trailblazer is Ed Cussman. Ed Cussman was the first Black board member of the Metropolitan Water District, and that was a result of Mayor Bradley appointing him when he saw, after conversations with me and others, that there was a need to bring some color to the water industry. And so he appointed Ed Cussman. Ed Cussman was a great guy. He knew how to work the system and make sure that people felt comfortable dealing with people of a different color rather than being afraid of them. So he really was able to open doors there. And I learned from him on how to do that and how to make people feel comfortable and open up dialogue. So with that, the Black Police Association flourished and many people came in and succeeded. Now, I will tell you, there were times when some of the white folks felt that I was doing too much for Blacks.
Hmm.
The other side, I had the black folks saying I
You
wasn't
were
doing
not
enough.
enough.
So, you know, you're caught in this quandary of just all you can do is just do what you can do. You just do the best you can and pull the people forward who want to go forward. And the people who don't want to go forward, you just move on and pray for them and hope that they succeed. So it's just been a blessing, and I'm very proud to have been a part of that history.
Now, through that whole journey, tell us, what was it like? What did it feel like to reach the top of the company? I remember that day, and I remember seeing your emotions. But what was, share with everyone else? What was the emotional feeling for reaching that position?
Well, first it was a surprise because I didn't know that was going to happen. That was an appointment from the board of directors, and so I first was in shock, and I said, "Wow!" You know, it's kind of like if I go out to my driveway right now, and all of a sudden there's a brand new vet sitting out there given to me by my son Brandon Ivy from his success.
You
Then
see
I,
that? See that plug there?
you know, that's kind of like shocking, and I was in shock, and all I could do was just bow down on my knees and thank God that what a blessing that was. I wasn't trying to seek it at that time. It just kind of came to me. It just kind of happened, and I'm just thankful. I was in I was happy. I certainly was happy, but I was in shock, and I was a little bit in awe of just the tremendous responsibility that was suddenly on my shoulder. And I tell you, a lot of people helped me. A lot of people supported, and it wasn't people of color because it wasn't enough of us to do that. That happened from those people who I worked with and who learned that life can be just as good with people of color being in charge as anybody else. And it was just a lesson that anybody can break through if you keep trying, keep doing the best you can, be the best street sweeper you can be, as my dad said, and you'll be there. You'll be there. But it also is based on demonstrated ability. You have to perform. You have to do what's right, and you have to produce. And I believe that's what I did. And I'm so thankful to those who recognize that and put me in that position.
Now, and we'll go back to mom, because speaking of that journey, a 43-year career, mom had to go through it as well. And mom had to be many things at many times, from being a mother to a supportive wife to also being a politician at the same time, attending events with you. Talk about the role mom had in this journey with you.
Oh, wow. Let me tell you, mom would be the one who would always pick me up, dust me off, and kick me back out the door and say, get back over there and do what you got to do. Take care of this family. She was a no nonsense. She was loving. She would hold me. And I would sometimes be so distressed and disappointed coming from work sometimes, depending on how things went and how I was treated and successes and failures. And she was just always the foundation that kept my head high. She kept the family together. I was so busy that a lot of stuff fell on her. And I'm so appreciative of her being able to cut through all that. And by the way, she was working at the time too. She worked at LA Times, she worked in the city of Los Angeles. And talk about a success story. She, no matter what test she got, promotional test she had to take over there in the city, she was number one in every single one of them all the time. And let me tell you what a tremendous support and success she is for me. She is, all I can tell you is that we would not have made it without your mom. We would not have made it. No doubt about it. She's number one. And my love goes to her 100%. I thank God for the blessing of your mother.
Now, having children,
Yeah.
when you had two sons, did that change your outlook on life, or your goals for the future? You know, what did that do for you?
Oh, having two sons, boy, that what a blessing. That is so exciting. I mean, that was great. When you came along and you screaming and hollering all the time, I said, boy, he's gonna be an orator. He's gonna be a speaker, I can tell. I called you Senator Brandon because I just feel that's kind of what you into our life. And your brother, oh my, Dr. Devin, he is just tremendous. And you guys motivated me beyond motivation. And I said, must do whatever I need to do to make a pathway for my sons to be successful. And it just took on a whole new meaning, a whole new responsibility. And I wanted to be sure, number one, that I protected you against obstacles. We were still living in Compton. And when your mom taking you to daycare saw the second dead body laying in the street at that time, that's when the decision was made that we needed to leave out of that particular area and move to somewhere where you would be safe, where you wouldn't have to worry about anything, and where you could succeed. And move we did, and I've never regretted it from that time forward. I think that I want to provide you, it was necessary for me to provide you guys safe haven and a safe place and a warm and comfortable environment and the best education you could get because you were God's children. And it was my responsibility to make sure you succeeded and were protected. So I'm so proud of the both of you. What a great young man you are. And I think that your success continues to just bedazzle me with your accomplishments. And I want you to know that some of my friends, John Murray over at Metropolitan Water District and others are such great, great supporters of yours. Phil Pace, former chairman of Metropolitan, what a great man he was. And you had a chance to chat with him about successful endeavors and moving forward. And it's just been tremendous. The former general managers at Metropolitan, great opportunities where you had opportunity to meet them and get some of your successful courage from them. And I also want to mention Adon Ortega, the new chairman of the Metropolitan Water District, and the fact that he's followed your career and Devin's career and have been so successful in making it. It's what a great opportunity where you had the first Latino chairman of the board. And I attribute that also to the doors that I helped open in the past to get people there. So yes, you and Devin are the heart of me, and I'm destined to make sure you guys become the greatest kings that you need to be.
And some of those doors, I mean, that have been open that allow, like with Uncle Dan Metrovich, and the ability to work in DC with the families. Well, one thing, speaking on that, because you mentioned something about Grandpa, where he said that, I know it had to be a tough decision to move when he was saying we need to stay. And I know that in your career, you've always been faced back with that, come back to Compton and this and that. So how was that? Was that a real difficult decision to make? To say I'm trying to protect my family, so I've got to move out.
Oh yeah, your grandpa wasn't happy. He said, don't move, you got to improve. He said, if you leave, that takes the resources with you and makes Compton go down even further. And I understood everything he said, but I think that when I got pulled over by the police for the gazillionth time by just getting in my car, that it was just time for me to make sure that you guys had an opportunity that I saw other people have from working at Metropolitan, the kinds of neighborhoods they lived in, the kinds of resources they had that wasn't available at that time in Compton. So I wanted to make sure you guys had that. He finally understood, and things got on their way, and he supported us in that endeavor. And in fact, when the guns just got so out of control that he was so happy that we did indeed move, because where we used to live got so crime infested that that he would have moved us out of there himself if we had moved. And so life is life, and I really support the fact that Compton is trying so hard to come back. Compton is still a big part of me, and being at Cal State University of Mingus Hills on the board puts me right there with Compton. Some of the things we're working on is to help Compton. So Compton's okay. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Awesome. Now, you talked about being able, through Voices of Inspiration and even with MWD, being introduced to celebrities and politicians. Tell us about some of the people you've had the opportunity to meet, engage with from both sides, from the entertainment side and also from the business world, with like Congressman John Lewis and and Bill Clinton, and being down in Washington D.C. And so, tell us about some of those experiences.
Oh, I've had experiences that I didn't think I'd ever have. And one of the bigger ones was John Lewis there. What a great, great man. I got to spend a lot of time with him traveling back to DC. And I mean, imagine this is a man who was chased by dogs and bitten and beaten and arrested. And I mean, how can you not feel the anger that he had, but using that anger for the good? He always said get into good trouble. And he said he didn't care how many times he got beaten if it meant moving the black cause further, making America understand that we are all patriots, that there are patriots and then there's black people. I mean, that's just doesn't even make sense. And and the insurrection that happened, it's just crazy. But let me tell you, I got to meet Senator Barack Obama before he became president, and then I got to interview for a job in Interior, traveling to the White House to meet his staff. So that was like one of the highlights of my career, and also meeting Bill Clinton and the leaders of the Congressional Black Caucus, and of course, and Karen Bass, and Dianne Feinstein was another tremendous opportunity for me to meet someone. I've met with all kinds of mayors. I've met and worked with every single mayor in Los Angeles, from Tom Bradley all the way forward. And it's just been just a great, great opportunity. All the council people, the county supervisors I've met with, Mayor of San Francisco, and Governor Brown, Governor Newsom, and I even met with Gray Davis, and all of that becoming because of the job I had at Metropolitan and the business community coming together. Some of the important people in the entertainment industry, Robert Simons used to be on the Metropolitan board. He's a big time Hollywood producer, and really kind of as a good friend. Uh, Diane Carroll, the late Diane Carroll, and Luther Vandross, and you just name it, just a bunch of people. Reverend James Cleveland from the past, and as I mentioned, Eddie James, Eliza Minnelli, and Joel Gray, and Ben Vereen, and I could just go down to just a bunch of people. In fact, one time we were doing a television special with Ben Vereen, Diane Carroll, and Liza Minnelli, and she came out of part of the studio and was tired, so she draped herself across the lap of me and your mom, and it was just shocking. I mean, there's a star sitting on our lap. It was kind of exciting. It was great. It was fantastic, and of course, in the current time, I had Chaka Khan. Got to do a background session with Chaka Khan. Well, Moscow on the Hudson movie. And the Voices got to do and work with the Beach Boys on several tracks. And in fact, one movie with Dennis Wilson, we did, I think it's Mari and Me. We did the soundtrack for the River Song. And so you can hear that. And it's just, I mean, what a tremendous opportunity I've had working with all kind of individuals up and down the coast, San Diego's mayor and folks in San Diego. And there's so many. In fact, one of the San Diego directors, I won't say who, I had a gold chain on, and he goes, "What is that? A Mr. T starter kit?" And so, it's just been a good time. I've overall just had a tremendous time, tremendous people, and just great opportunities. DC was great, Sacramento was great, and LA, of course, is number one. So we're doing well.
Now, you mentioned also moving out based on the amount of times you were being pulled over just because you were driving while black. And you've had to have that talk with me and my brother when we became of age of driving. I've already had that talk with my two sons. And we are, I mean, on not anniversary, we're just witnessing another incident of police brutality, or a traffic incident. What's your thoughts on, and you can answer this however way you want to, about our current state of race relations and police brutality and what it means to be a black man today, 40 plus years later in America?
Well, it, we keep trying to make things better. Things are better. I think more and more people see that, first off, blacks are not scary. They're not out to threaten you. They're not out to pillage you. And I mean, that was a tremendous problem in the early stages. And what's happening now, in my opinion, is that some of that element, some of that stuff that we thought was rooted out, is coming back with a vengeance, and calling people who are doing these terrible things and these vicious issues and these attacks and this police activity, that is just coming from a dark heart, as a dark heart. And when people say they're just being patriots, I have a problem with that. I really have a problem with that. I'm telling you, your father and your other grandfather, uh, your mom's father, let me tell you, they would just not be happy with what's going on right now. After Martin Luther King lost his life trying to make things better for us all, and he's just shot down. And you were thinking that all of that is now behind us. It's not. It's not. It's just now taken on a different set of clothes. And we have got to continue to pull together. I happen to believe that there are far more people who are in our camp with us than those who are against us. And when I say us, I'm talking about us who believe in America and who believe in patriotism, who believe in protecting this country and being number one. We can all get along. And God's biggest commandment is that we all love one another. Well, God loves all of us. And I don't understand where this hate continues to come from. I don't understand, as I didn't understand back 40 years, why people choose to act the way they act. We've got to pull this together. In fact, the committee I'm on with the city here in the city of Laverne is called CASI, or the Cultural Awareness and Social Inclusion Committee. And the whole committee is about opening up dialogue and making sure people understand that, yeah, we have differences, but there's a reason for the differences. And once you get through with the reason for the differences and approaches and why we feel the way we feel, then you open dialogue and people then understand. You don't have to necessarily agree, but at least you understand why, when things happen with the police, why I get upset. And if things happen against the country and something's happening in your world, in the white world, for instance, that I have a better understanding of why you feel that way. Because once you understand why someone feels that way, then you have a better chance of building bridges to connect and communication. And that's what we're all about here in Laverne. We want Laverne to be the class act, be the number one city, showing that we can all get along and do our thing and succeed. Now, has it been difficult? Yes. Some people feel that this committee is just existing so that we can call them racist. And that's what was told to us at a meeting in the past. But that's not true. We accept everybody. We want everybody to come and talk, and tell us what the issue is so we can talk it through. The police here in Laverne, in this little community, we have our first female police chief, and she is tremendous, a tremendous person, making sure that the doors are open, open communication. There was a time Laverne's police force wasn't quite that way, but we are so much better, and things can happen and succeed. The biggest regret I have is that have been unable to get some of my own friends to understand that the insurrection against the Capitol was not a patriotic issue. That was plain old anger and hate that came across that country. That is treason, and these people should be taken care of. And I know I've lost a couple of friends because of my belief in that area. But to tell them that they were patriots and to go home and that we love you, I don't think so. I think both my grandfather, your grandfather, and fathers, they'd be turning over in their graves if they heard that, being military men and supporting this country. So it's time for us to put this stuff down, stop the lies, and to move forward. Let me tell you, in my house, if I lied, my mother would beat the hell out of me. And so I don't know what happened to that. What happened to uh, it's okay to lie so outrageously right now? That's just crazy. So anyway, we can all get it together. We can pull it together. I just think that this little thing is going to pass, and we're going to all move forward together, and this country is going to be great, and we're going to all have success. There's enough money and enough power in this country we can share and get along together.
Well, speaking of legacy, your grandsons are both watching this right now, and they'll understand this far more 15, 20 years from now than they are listening to it right now. So is there any message you'd like to send, share for them as they grow into young men?
Well, first off, to submit to God and be at peace with Him in this way, prosperity will come their way. So they need to be strong. They need to continue to be faithful and stick to their education, make sure they finish their schooling. And then both of them are doing well. You know, one's a graduate and the other one's got honors. And I'm so proud of you being able to guide them in that area and success. And again, like my dad said, if all they're ever going to be is a street sweeper, then be the number one street sweeper. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Be kind, be open. Don't let your anger get out of control, and understand that everybody has to be on top of their game. And I want them to understand that God says that the biggest commandment, his first commandment, is that we all love one another and you respect your fellow man, your fellow woman, and you keep going strong. I want them to be number one in whatever they do. Don't half step, take it all the way to the top, and you will be rewarded.
All right. Well, before we end, is my mom hanging around back there? I'd love for her to come on and wave to everybody and say hello.
I don't know where she is.
I don't know if she's still listening.
Yeah, I think she's listening. Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing too. What was it like sending your sons to Morehouse College?
Well, let me tell you, it was a treat. It was a high honor that both my sons went to Morehouse. And I tell you that, that's where men are made to be men and strong, decisive leaders. And as you know, one of the people in my SEAM group, the co-op for empowerment and economic movement, is a Morehouse man. And he is just fantastic. You are fantastic. And what Devin learned from all this is how to be a strong, professional Christian man. And I am so proud of you. I wear that proudly, that you guys are Morehouse guys. And I want you to know that with that, it opens doors. It has certainly opened doors and gained you respect. And Devin went into a direction with that basis of Morehouse and ended up being a PhD doctor. And what can you say? You're now CEO of your company. What can you say? There it is. And that's the elements of Morehouse wearing off on both of you. So I'm proud of that.
All right. Well, Mr. Ivey, I took up enough of your time. Dad, Pops, this was indeed an honor. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Even though you're retired, you still are doing a lot. In fact, is there anything that you'd like to share lastly before I let you go, and think that you're still excited about for the future and that you got going on that you're doing?
Well, yeah, the first thing I want to do is, your mom and I made it to Europe. We're going to go back to Europe. We're going to travel a lot more. And we're going to just have a good time. And we want to know that you guys are going to be okay. Because if you're not okay, then we're not okay. So we're going to go traveling. We're going to have some fun. And who knows where we end up next time. But we'll be here for you as you need us. And we love you tremendously.
Oh, well, we're definitely going to be okay. Both myself, Devin, our next generations. And that all comes from your mom's guidance, leadership. Is Mom here?
Yes.
Come on in, Mom.
Hello.
There's my queen.
Mom, you got to come over a little bit more to the center. There you go. Well, everybody, that's my mom. Yeah, you saw that I interviewed her last year. So she is the backbone of our family and the love of my dad's life and my mom.
Good morning, family.
Thank you, Dad. And for those of you guys that's watching this, if you see over my dad's right shoulder, there's a building there. That is the headquarters of MWD, which sits on top of Union Station. That my father is the one principal for having it built, and his name's on the plaque on the side of that building. That I took my youngest son and my oldest son to see that their pop-pop's names on the building. So what a wonderful life. What a story. Dad, I tell you, you need to write a book or 2 or 3. But I wanted to make sure I got this down, recorded, so everybody can know, where my inspiration comes from and where I get it from and where we're going into the future. And I want to thank you for all that you've done for us, for our society, for being a contributing, productive citizen of not just Black Americans, but all Americans, and for your service. Very much appreciated.
I appreciate that. And I love you, man. Great success.
Love you too. I'm going to have some surprises for you in the future, so be ready for that. So with that, everybody, that brings us to the end of our crypto talk for today, even though it wasn't crypto talk, but you get to hear the man behind myself and my family. Coming up this weekend, I'm taking this weekend off. There's nothing else happening until Monday morning. We'll be back for Inner Circle Crypto Talk. The next few Saturdays, we have more interviews. Next Saturday, I'll be interviewing Dr. Byron Nelson from Morehouse College. Also, the following Monday is our next 5-day challenge. And in honor of Black History Month, we're going to be doing an all Morehouse panelists. So you're going to have myself, my Morehouse freshman year roommate and alumni of the year, Mr. Lamar Slater. You have Dr. Byron Nelson, Professor Oscar Sistrunk of Morehouse College, and also author Eric Guthrie is going to be with us, and maybe a few more surprises. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. Dad, enjoy yourself, and I'll be seeing you soon. Love you very much. And to everybody else, we'll see you on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.